My name is Jeff Ackerman, or Yuri Ackerman, depending you ask. I am the principal of Rise Architecture. We design buildings throughout the country. We're about in 15 states. We have offices in New York and New Jersey. We have a team of about 35 people, and growing, Baruch Hashem. And I also am the principal of Jam Equities, a partner of one of 3 people. We're actually focusing on hopefully building communities. Community developers is what we call ourselves. Where we focus on the structuring and calculation to specifically design communities from the ground up. Which has been to build a community from scratch. And the reason we have this dream is because we've realized as developers there's a major need in our community. One of the things I tell a lot of people is that we focus on a component of the growth of our community. The growth of the community doubles every single time. So 10 years ago we were double. It didn't stay from a couple of fold over here and then grow double. Every time we double, we've tenfold the time that we were before. We've reached a point where we're at a mass and there's no place for us to go. You look at Brooklyn, for instance. A house costs $2 million, if you're lucky, and it needs to be ripped apart. You go to Lakewood, there's a line to get a house for $1 million, and that building is starting now, and there's a line out the door to buy it. You go to Kiryas Yale, an apartment costs a couple $100,000. There's no place for a frum young couple, or someone who has a few kids, to actually go live right at this moment and actually get a normal house. It's become so unattainable for people to grow and live. It's a big problem at this point. We thought that this is a possibility, as a viability, to actually fix this problem, or at least put a dent in the problem. I don't know if we'll fix it totally, but if we start a new community from scratch, which hasn't been done in a long time, we hope that this could hopefully change this conversation and actually make it better for communities that are being hurt drastically from ourselves, so to say. This development is a major undertaking, and it's not a major undertaking just from the sheer size of it, that it's 1,107 houses and 800,000 square feet of commercial space. That's not even the hardest part of the conversation. To do a development like that, it's done on a daily basis. Companies like D.R. Horton, Ryan Builders, they build these houses all the time. And the reason why they're successful is they just build and they sell. Our concern here, and our biggest issue that we're trying to accommodate, is the frum community and build a community from scratch. Community building is an entirely different exercise than actually building a development. We, as frum architects, tried very hard to design the houses based on frum living. We put in Pesach kitchens, we put in a certain amount of bedroom sizes, we put in specific uses that we believed are necessary for frum living. I will make a point that as we've come out with the houses and we've gotten certain responses, these are not the final design of the houses. Yes, we put out what we call preliminary designs. We have not finished the construction documents for the houses yet, and one of the reasons why not is because we want feedback from the public. As they go and look at it and say, oh, we need X, Y, and Z, we need some more closets, we need some more other things, then we can actually make sure we accommodate. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to make everybody happy, but that does mean that we want to do our best to accommodate from a frum living, that if we get feedback from 15, 20 people that there needs to be more storage, yes, we'll modify the plans to make more storage. So those questions could be ratified, and the more questions that we get asked from the public, the more we can get proper feedback and proper responses and get the proper product that's 100% perfect. Central Florida in general has been very little development for a period of time. Because of access, a lot of things have changed over the course of the last few years. Access has changed. Roads are changing. They're turning things into 5-lane highways. Other things are happening in Central Florida. The same thing, if you look at Orlando for a second, and before the boom of Orlando, before there was a 5-lane highway going through Orlando, there was no major boom. The second the 5-lane highway was built in Orlando became a major metropolis, not just for Disney. It used to be just Disney and just the house around Disney. Today, Orlando is a metropolis, a massive city. And the only reason why is because they redirected the 5-lane interstate to go straight through Orlando. The second they did that, Orlando became a massive metropolis. They're doing the same thing to Okeechobee within the next 3 to 5 years. And there's already a lot of things happening around Okeechobee that Okeechobee could very quickly become a metropolis, irrelevant to what we're doing, which in turn will be good for business, for people coming down there, and other things that could happen as well. One of the reasons we picked Central Florida away from the other communities within Florida, we felt that we needed to start a community from scratch, vice versa, piggybacking off other communities that are there. And the reason why we didn't want to piggyback off other communities that are there is we felt that the need for us to create a community from scratch ultimately would allow us to make what we believe a frum heimish community will ultimately need to survive. We've seen many times communities that become vacation spots and ultimately try to become communities later become a problem because they're in essence not set up to be a community, they're set up to be vacation spots. We want to set up community because if we have the right people that come at front, like we said previously about the 150 people who want to move, if we can kickstart a community properly, in essence the yeshivas will be proper, the shuls will be proper, and then ultimately the community will build off a strong basis of Yiddishkeit, vice versa, rebuilding Yiddishkeit in places where we're trying to retroactively recreate those spaces. We have sought after Rabbanim specifically to create this community so it focuses on the Yiddishkeit of it. As developers, yes, we can go build and sell elsewhere. We're still trying to create a community, and not just any community, a community that's Haimish, Hasidish, a community which ultimately Rabbi Moskowitz, which is who we've ultimately coined to do it, we believe is going to help us pull that off. Why did we pick Rabbi Moskowitz? We actually went to multiple different Rabbanim, and when we noticed how Rabbi Moskowitz's outlook is clear and decisive, and ultimately to help create that community, we ultimately coined him to be the person to do that. And we put full trust, 100% into him to do this. And the reason we put full trust into him to do this is because after many, many times and many hours of deliberation with him, we realized that he has the foresight, and also not just the foresight, but the will to pull this off and to make sure that this community works, not just from what the perspective but ultimately work in perfection that ultimately creates the community he's looking to do.